Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful day today. So, of course, for those of you that know boxing, or for those of us overall that pay attention to boxing, we know that the next rising star, in my opinion, Mr. Gervonta Tank Davis, we all know that he has an upcoming fight this weekend. I believe it's actually on a Sunday, because from what I've heard, the date of this fight is going to be December 5th. Now, I could be wrong about that. Someone corrects me, but I recently checked up on it, and it told me December 5th. So I do actually believe that this fight is on a Sunday, which is a little bit odd because you don't usually see boxing fights on Sunday, but there has been a couple of networks, all in all, that has scheduled certain fights, maybe not on a Saturday. Of course, DAZN has scheduled some of Devin Haney's fights and Demetrius Andrade fights, not necessarily on a Saturday. They may have it on a Wednesday or a Thursday or a Friday, but it is what it is. Anyways, when it comes down to it, all in all, Gervonta Tank Davis, in my opinion, when I think about Gervonta Tank Davis, I truly do believe that Gervonta Tank Davis is an upcoming star. I think that Gervonta Tank Davis, when you just talk about the amount of attention that he brings to the table, I think that Gervonta Tank Davis truly is the next pay-per-view star. I think that Canelo Alvarez probably is going to be the number one pay-per-view star. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of people that can maybe surpass Canelo Alvarez in that right, but what I do think is that Gervonta Tank Davis, maybe eventually, if he does face A grade tier competition, I think all in all that he certainly can be right up there with Canelo Alvarez. Who knows? Maybe even one day he may surpass him. But it's going to be hard to surpass Canelo, not only with some of the people that he fights, but Canelo, of course, is a Mexican fighter. And like I said, I don't know if there's a bigger fan base in the sport of boxing than that of not only the Mexican fan base, but the Latinos as a whole. So Canelo Alvarez, he has a very, very big fan base, but Gervonta Tank Davis, he does attract a certain amount of people. You can tell that Gervonta Tank Davis, when you take a look at him as a fighter, in my opinion, Gervonta Tank Davis, he is the next level fighter. Gervonta Tank Davis, I believe, is probably the most talented fighter all the way from 130, possibly even all the way up to 140 pounds. And if he's even someday able to fight at 147 pounds, who the hell knows? Gervonta Tank Davis, he's a guy that I believe is about 5'6". He has a 67.5-inch reach. He's not a super big guy. But what Gervonta Tank Davis has been gifted with is A grade athleticism. This dude, in terms of boxing, you really can debate, in my opinion, that he really is the best all around athlete in terms of boxing. I mean, Gervonta Tank Davis, this dude has so much power in his hands when it comes down to it. I mean, this dude really has, A plus power. And I really don't say that about a lot of boxers out there. I'm usually a very harsh critic. I mean, I guess I'm always somewhat of a harsh critic. I don't say that I'm unfair, overall, just like, that one referee, I'm trying to think overall what his name was, he says I'm fair, but I'm firm. That's kind of what I am as a critic. I'm a little bit, firm and blunt when it comes down to it, but I believe all in all that I'm somewhat logical and objective and decently fair. Gervonta Tank Davis, I don't think that this is an A grade fight for him. I don't think that Isaac, or Isaac, however he pronounces his name, Isaac Pitbull Cruz or Isaac Pitbull Cruz, I don't think that this guy necessarily is an A grade fight. I don't think that he's necessarily an A grade fighter. That doesn't mean that I don't think that he's talented, but I do believe that this fight is going to be on pay per view. I think that it could do a certain amount of buys. I don't think it's going to do anything over 500,000 pay per view buys, if it even does that. But who the hell knows? Gervonta Tank Davis, like I said, he is the next star in the making, in my opinion. But Gervonta Tank Davis, he is going to have to start facing repeated A grade competition eventually, because the only A grade fighter that I can really debate on his resume as of right now has really been Leo Santa Cruz. And I think the Leo Santa Cruz fight was a very decent fight. He had some problems in that fight, but of course, he was able to stop Leo Santa Cruz in that sixth round, and he was starting to adjust to Leo Santa Cruz's style. So Gervonta Tank Davis, like I said, Gervonta Tank Davis very clearly, he is an A-grade opponent. He is an A-grade fighter. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. When I take a look at Gervonta Tank Davis, he may be even more skilled than some of the other fighters that I've seen come out of the Mayweather gym or that have tried to adopt that Mayweather style, whether it be Terrence Bud Crawford or Earl Spence Jr. or Shakur Stevenson. To be honest with you, this is my personal opinion. I can't necessarily say that Gervonta Tank Davis, in my opinion, is above any of those fighters besides maybe Shakur Stevenson in terms of my pound for pound list, because Terrence and Errol Spence for sure on my pound for pound list. I wouldn't have Shakur there yet because I just don't think he's done enough. But Gervonta Tank Davis is getting there. He is a technical, I guess, 3 division champion, even though I don't know if I would necessarily say that he won the official belts there. He won some of the interim and, regular belts there, but it is what it is. When it comes down to it, all in all, this fight between Gervonta Tank Davis and Isaac Pitbull Cruz, Isaac Pitbull Cruz, I think all in all, he's a decent fighter. I think that what he really reminds me of, he almost reminds me of a mini version of Andrew Ruiz. Kind of fights in a very similar style like that. Keeps his hands up a lot, which I think is a very, very good thing. Likes to throw a lot of hooks on the inside, likes to throw on the inside, likes to brawl with certain fighters when it comes down to it. That's what he's like. And his feet are not as slow as Andrew Ruiz. So when it comes down to it, who knows? Maybe he may be able to get on Gervonta Tank Davis here and there. And maybe he may be able to hurt him or maybe able to give him some problems. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Isaac Cruz or Isaac Cruz, however you pronounce it, I wouldn't be surprised if he lasted for a while. But personally, in my opinion, I don't see how Gervonta Tank Davis loses to this guy if he takes this guy seriously. I just don't see it. Gervonta Tank Davis, when it comes down to it, like I said, he is debatably the most talented athlete in all of boxing right now. And when you take a look at his power, I mean, his power is on a whole nother level. Gervonta Tank Davis really is that type of dude that, I mean, he can really knock you out with any type of punch. When you think of any of the hardest hitters in history, at the lighter weight divisions, I mean, Gervonta Tank Davis, at least from what I've seen so far, he's there with anybody. I mean, he knocked out Leo Santa Cruz out cold in that 6th round in their fight. And Leo Santa Cruz, I think he had been knocked down a couple times before possibly, but he certainly had never been knocked out, not even close. And this dude just comes in there and he pretty much wrecks Leo Santa Cruz's whole entire shit up. I mean, he completely knocked him flat on his ass. He completely knocked him out cold in that 6th round. And unfortunately for Isaac Pitbull Cruz, I think that he probably is going to end up very much the same. I think that Cruz, I think he's a very rough and tough fighter, but I don't think that he's an A-grade fighter. I don't think that Isaac Cruz, I don't think that, he's ever going to be a legitimate champion, at least when you talk about winning one of the official belts. I think that he's a decent fighter, but I don't think that he's an A-grade fighter. I think that Cruz, I think that he's going to come towards Gervonta Tank Davis the whole entire time. Now, Leo Santa Cruz, he gave advice to Cruz and said, all in all, that maybe you should not try to brawl with Gervonta Tank Davis. Because, obviously, Leo Santa Cruz, he tried to do that a little bit with Gervonta Tank Davis, and, of course, it did not end up going his way. But I think, really, to be honest with you, I think that that's all that Isaac Cruz knows how to do. I think that he's a brawler. I think he's a good brawler. I think that he's, a trained brawler. I think all in all that when you have certain brawlers, you can have certain brawlers that are not necessarily highly skilled, like a Deontay Wilder. And then you can have certain brawlers like an Isaac Pitbull Cruz that, they're a little bit more disciplined is a word that I'm looking for. But do I think that he's going to have enough to beat Gervonta Tank Davis? Absolutely not. I don't see how he's going to defeat Gervonta Tank Davis. I think Gervonta Tank Davis has him beat in every single category. He has him beat in power. He has him beat in height. He has him beat in stature. I think he has him beat in reach. I think that he really has him beat in almost everything. I don't see one category that Isaac Pitbull Cruz really beats Gervonta Tank Davis in. So it is what it is. Like I said, this to me is not really an A-grade fight. This was very similar to me along the lines of if Terrence Crawford, pretty much like when he was fighting an Aegis Kavalauskas or a Jose Benavidez. Like those guys, they were looked at as decent prospects for their division, but, they're never going to win one of the official belts of their division. They're never going to be an A-class fighter. They're pretty much going to be stepping stones. That's what Isaac Pitbull Cruz is. Sure, he can win against some of the B-class fighters or C-class fighters, but is he ever going to be a person that is ever going to beat an A-grade fighter or a high B-level fighter? No, that's not the type of fighter that Isaac Pitbull Cruz is. And I think that it's very unfortunate that Gervonta Tank Davis is still facing these types of fighters. I'm hoping after this fight, because I do believe Gervonta Tank Davis will win this fight. I think that he'll win it quite clearly. To be honest with you, I think that at the most, Isaac Pitbull Cruz, maybe he'll last 10 rounds if Gervonta Tank Davis did not take him seriously enough. But I could see Isaac Pitbull Cruz, I could see him being knocked out as early as 2 rounds. I could see him being knocked out within the first 6 or 7 rounds easily. I'm going to predict, just because of Gervonta Tank Davis's power, I'm going to predict that Gervonta Tank Davis more than likely outboxes him and more than likely probably knocks him out within a good 5 to 7 rounds. Because Isaac Pitbull Cruz, I think, is going to come straight at Gervonta Tank Davis. He may give him a little bit of trouble at first, but when it comes down to it, I don't think that, I don't think all in all that he's good enough. I don't think all in all that he's going to be able to sustain the damage. I don't think all in all that he's going to be able to really hurt Gervonta Tank Davis enough. I don't think that he's a big enough threat. So I have Gervonta Tank Davis personally by knockout within the first several rounds. We'll end up seeing what happens with this. And I'm hoping that after this fight, we see a possible A-grade fight or a step up in competition. That would mean maybe someone like a Vasily Lomachenko if he's able to get past Richard Comey. Maybe a Teofimo Lopez, but he didn't necessarily look too great his last fight. A George Kambosos maybe even, and I don't even think that he really has much of a chance against Gervonta. The fights that I would personally like to see against Gervonta, Shakur Stevenson would be a very interesting fight. Devin Haney would be a very interesting fight. Josh Taylor, Regis Prograis, Jose Ramirez, any of those would be very interesting as well because Gervonta, yes, he's clearly not the same size as those guys, at least in terms of height and reach. But Gervonta, he can handle himself at 140 because Gervonta Tank Davis, he has the type of power and athleticism that almost like a Canelo Alvarez or Roy Jones Jr. has when it comes down to it, to where there's just certain types of fighters to where their power, and all in all, on top of that, he can take good power, he can take good punches, he can move up almost a couple of divisions almost out of his way and still handle himself because of the type of power and the type of abilities that he has. Now, of course, he does have very excellent boxing abilities, no doubt about it. What he really reminds me of, actually, is basically a Floyd Mayweather Jr. who can punch way harder than what Floyd Mayweather Jr. ever could. And that's not me trying to insult Floyd Mayweather Jr. That's not me trying to say that Floyd in his prime or at his best could not punch. That's not me saying that because, of course, Floyd had, a little over 50% knockout ratio for his career. But when it comes down to it, I don't think that Floyd at his peak ever had the type of power that Gervonta Tank Davis had for his weight classes. I mean, this dude, this dude has knocked out people on and on, like once again, like Leo Santa Cruz, who have never even sometimes touched the canvas. So, it's his power is just different. His power is even more powerful than that of a Earl Spence Jr. for the welterweight division. Like, he has about the same power, in my opinion, like what a Gennady Golovkin did at his prime. That's an A-plus puncher. That's the type of power that Gervonta Tank Davis has. And I just don't think that Isaac Cruz is going to be able to beat him because I just think that he's too talented. I think he's too good. And I don't think that that type of style, at least with the type of stature that he has, I don't think that that's going to beat Gervonta Tank Davis. Because Isaac Pitbull Cruz or Isaac Pitbull Cruz, I don't think he has enough power to really hurt Gervonta Tank Davis unless he hits him really consistently. Mario Barrios, in my opinion, had a decent amount of more power than Isaac Pitbull Cruz, and he was able to maybe stumble Gervonta here and there, but very rarely did I ever thought, or think that Gervonta was in serious super duper trouble. And I just don't think that Isaac Pitbull Cruz, I don't think that he's going to be able to put much of anything really with Gervonta Tank Davis, but that's my personal opinion. Anyways, my final prediction, like I said, I have Isaac Cruz probably losing this fight within the first several rounds. I could see it going as long as 10 rounds because Isaac Cruz does seem like a warrior. He seems like he has the heart of a champion, but I don't think that he has the complete skill set of a Gervonta Tank Davis. I don't think that he's an A-grade fighter, but it is what it is. Anyways, that's really about it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you all later.